All right, welcome to MetaMinds episode 2. And today, what are we talking about, Dan?
Today we are talking about fulfillment and meaning.
Wow. Two
massive things.
Wow, there we go. 2 huge topics, essentially, in everyday life that everyone has to deal with and experience, essentially. You know, we're the only animals on the planet. Well, I mean, actually, there's dolphins and I think some types of monkeys do as well that actually are self-aware enough so that we can feel this despair and you know, not want to be alive, and so we have to kind of find meaning, and that's the reason why we need to do things to be fulfilling and find meaning out of that. So
that's it for sure.
I mean, diving right into it, I suppose. What is fulfillment and meaning, and why do we need these things in our life, Dan?
Well, I think with pretty much anything that we do in our lives, whether that's finding a job, taking up a hobby, joining the gym, whatever it may be, there's a reason why you do it. And if it's not fulfilling to you, then most of the time you won't continue that. So I feel like having just a genuine, I guess, passion or something that like motivates you will give you meaning to some extent. And obviously you can find meaning in anything. Like people can find meaning in movies, music, so many different factors of life. And I guess it's also on the person to be self-aware of themselves and maybe have those internal conversations about what is meaningful. But yeah, I guess it's just, the thing that I guess would drive you to really do anything if it's meaningful, right? Like I know for me, I try to do anything that makes me feel like I'm pursuing something that I'm enjoying and gives me some sort of meaning or excitement or whatever it may be. So yeah, I guess that's my answer. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that, you know, without meaning, it's not fulfilling. They definitely tie into each other. If you're doing something that doesn't have meaning, then obviously you're going to be way more inclined to feel depressed and not like your existence and just hate what you're experiencing and be filled with sadness and despair. That's it. And oftentimes, like, you know, I talk to people where they are in this loop of like self-resentment and I don't like what I'm experiencing right now. And when you ask them why, they kind of don't, you know, it's like take self-awareness to realize that it's like you need to be doing actions that are actually fulfilling, you know, like even if, and you know, especially if you're in a job that you hate, which is one of the most common scenarios that you see. And look, we've all been there, obviously, that it's like, if you don't, you know, that can get you down to the point where you don't want to do things outside of that because you're just resenting going into that thing, whatever it may be, like an abusive relationship or anything. And so if you're not actually doing the things, taking the steps outside of that to find fulfilling activities and to find meaning in those activities, then, you know, it's going to be even harder. You're going to be stuck in that rut forever, you know, and it's this kind of psychological loop that can be really hard to actually get out of.
Definitely.
Kind of went on a tangent there, but essentially, fulfillment and meaning. You find meaning in fulfilling activities. And I think, and I mentioned it in the previous podcast, that fulfillment comes from pushing yourself forward and actually making progress in different areas of your life.
Definitely. And I think on that note of just a job that you don't enjoy or being stuck in a rut or whatever, normally when you have to pursue for something that is meaningful or something that you really enjoy, it is a challenge. And a lot of the time, like having a job that is, because obviously there are so many different factors to why people stay in a job they're not happy, besides the fact of just their own inability to want to move on. But it could be many factors, financial, whatever it may be. So I guess it's just, trying to recognize that there will be challenge in taking yourself out of your comfort zone. And I guess for me, like the whole idea of like working a job, it was quite a worrying idea a few years ago. The idea of like getting in a job that I work 5 days a week, you know, what happens if I don't enjoy it in 5 years or whatever? So that's why I really drilled down on the fact that, you know, counseling is something I would be happy to do as a 4-day-a-week thing, and then still have my passions outside of that, you know, podcasts and videos and whatnot. But I recognized that there was a challenge to that. Like it was me going against the grain as such, trying to do something different, not just being settled for a job. So I guess there are also the societal norms that are kind of imposed on you keeping in a job and settling with someone or whatever the topic may be. So yeah, I guess like we spoke off the podcast, is kind of just being able to find yourself is probably a really good step, taking time on your own, or even collaboratively with other people to try to understand you before, you make a big step. Because if it is leaving your job, that's a big thing to think, oh, wow, I'm actually going to be leaving my job. But if you can, break it down and go, oh, well, the reason I'm leaving is because of this, because it aligns with my meaning and the meaning of my life and the values that I associate with whatever movement I'm going to take, I guess that makes it a bit easier. It's kind of like weighing up the pros and cons. I don't know why I mentioned that, but I guess for me,
There's so much to unpack from what you just mentioned. I don't even know where to start. I suppose just building on the job thing, it's like, both of us are very, very lucky because we run our own businesses and we're on a path that we do find fulfilling and that we do find, like fulfillment from and,
for sure.
and therefore happiness in. But I would say the majority of people are in situations, not just jobs, but situations, whether it's, a job and a relationship, and, they have to pay off this mortgage, or they're living in a place that has ridiculous rent and they want to get out of it, but it's close to where their job is. Like, all these situations, even if they're like really small things or large things, they build up into something that is this really unfulfilling, perpetual, like not a positive place, you know what I mean? So it's like, I suppose the first step is actually finding the little things, outside of those unfulfilling things that is fulfilling, that allows you to get the motivation to push forward to find more fulfilling things to do, so that eventually you can overcome your whole life with, actually fulfilling things and meaning, essentially. Like meaning this is all of the ego. We've made this up, in the, in the egoless dimension, everyone is just experiencing consciousness with no sense of self, no perception of, their name and who they are. But obviously that doesn't exist, and the ego is necessary, right? Of course. It's great to be aware of it, but we do need to have meaning and fulfillment in this life, and it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. And also, I guess something to be mindful of for like people out there, and just something I guess that I was mindful of, is the whole idea of society will put some meaning on you, or some expectations, what's normal, a societal norm, getting married or going to university or finishing school, whatever the norm is, whatever it may be. And it kind of imposes that on you. And also relationships may pose that on you if people are taking certain paths. They may say to you, oh, well, why aren't you getting married? Or why aren't you staying in your job? Why are you trying to pursue things? Or, your parents may have some sort of idea. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is really trying to, again, understand yourself outside of all of those factors, because there's so many factors that will cause anxiety or will, put you in a different place. Like, so if it is possible for people to just kind of limit those thoughts and just be present for themselves and for what makes them happy, So like, I think you mentioned off the podcast, if you do find a little passion, if you find, oh, well, actually, I think I'm into art, if someone says that and then they go, oh, I'm into it, but where do I start? Where do I start from here? And if they don't have any friends that are into art or whatever, like you mentioned, there's Facebook groups. There would be hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds in the area, but there'd be at least a few in the area. There'd be art groups in the area. There's ways to obviously find them, and that can obviously be a daunting thing. So I guess it's just kind of opening up your options, seeing what's available to you, and seeing that it is a possibility. And then the only other alternative is to then, practice at home your passion, and then go out and try to learn a bit of art with other people. That's really all it takes. Like, you're not going to like envision something at home and then, find, you may find, of course, like there's no direction. You're not trying to like find monetary gain, or, it could be a social reason why you're going to an art group. And obviously, like, if you find something meaningful that you can do at home, like meditation or even gym or whatever, then I guess it's just trying to find why you're doing that to keep you motivated to do it. Because a lot of the time I find people will find a passion, but then they won't have the drive, or they won't have something to keep them going back to it. Like, people join up to the gym regularly at the end of the year because they've eaten a lot. And then they go, okay, well, I should get a gym membership. I ate lots of crap. They join, and February time, they don't go again, kind of thing. Yeah, so it's kind of how to keep your mind. It's like a mind exercise, keeping yourself.
I suppose it kind of touches on escapism a little bit. I mean, like, let's again take the average bloke, and again, not singling anybody out here, but you know, the average worker that you hear about a lot, they go to their 9-to-5 job and they come home, and to escape or to take their mind off things, will crack open a beer, you know, eat a big steak or whatever it may be, and like chuck on some Netflix, some like, you know, crappy mindless TV show or something, so that you can just zone out and forget about that kind of thing. And that's, I suppose, a negative thing, unless that's what you find fulfilling and you actively find that fulfilling. But the positive thing here is that you can actually find escapism as such, not in a negative way, in these things that you do find fulfilling. And to get super meta on you guys and us, that this is actually one of these things for you and I, that is like an escapism, like sense of fulfillment and meaning that we get out of it in some kind of attempt to actually help other people and share our experience, because we've been blessed enough to experience a lot. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's about finding those particular things and honing in on them, so that, you know, the monotony of life, whether you're full of passion and love, like you're definitely going to experience some kind of monotony, like then that is, you know, you're gonna find something that is fulfilling, I suppose. Yeah,
definitely. So I guess for you, what kind of maybe advice could you give people, or what would have your experiences been of trying to find, because I know obviously a bit more about you than these people do, but you've taken different paths, you've been in your music, you've done your film and stuff. So for you, do you have a process that springs to mind of what helped you navigate all these different things? And
so I would consider myself very lucky, because I'm quite a disciplined person, but I do have a bit of shiny object syndrome, as I'm sure everyone does in this age of limited attention spans, essentially. But for that reason, over the last 2 years, I've probably tried and started like 20 different projects, you know, and maybe 2-3 of them are still going currently, and a lot of them, you know, you try, and even you actually put a lot of work into before you to just kind of stop or let it drift off or whatever. The point I'm trying to make, though, is on the relentless self-improvement part, is essentially to relentlessly take action in things that you find interesting or find like that fulfills you in some kind of passion, that ignites some kind of spark in you, where you have this, you know, like crazy passion where you want to go out and get it. And, you know, you love when you see people that are like that, because you can see that in your eyes. You're like, yeah, tell me more about that, you know. But yeah, if you can find, you know, it's just about finding these little things, whether it's like maybe you want to start a business, you know, oh no, but it's going to take so long. That's okay. It's just like, just actually take the first step, because you might go, you know what, that was actually kind of easy. And then maybe you'll take the second step, or it's just figure out what the actual steps are going to be like. Just trying things, essentially, you know, because being in routine, you can actually, even if, as I said, even if you're in a fulfilling and like really exciting life, if it's a routine as such, then you can still find it to be monotonous, and then therefore lose its meaning. You know what I mean? So trying new things constantly, essentially, and then sometimes you'll just fall into something and you go, oh, this is the one, and just keep following that, and eventually you'll be on that artistic path for a long time. And things change, and they take left and right turns, and they pivot, and new doors open. But yeah, trying new things is pretty much the number one thing for myself, to find meaning, and meeting new people, you know, because you learn so much from other people, and we find meaning from connection. I was listening to a podcast earlier today from, I'm going to butcher his name, but it was Johan Hari, I believe. He's an English psychologist, yeah. And his main thing is about depression, and essentially the opposite of depression and addiction is connection. You know what I mean?
Wow, yeah, I have heard that as well.
And in this age, we're so quick to go, you're depressed? Well, then it's like serotonin imbalance in your mind. Here's this drug, take this drug, and then you'll be better. You're actually, there's some kind of glitch in your brain, and this is what you need to fix it. But are we looking at the root causes of the problem, where it's like we actually just need to feel a little bit more connected to people? And that's honestly, you know, passions and jobs and, you know, entrepreneurial endeavors aside, like, are you actually getting enough connection in your life? Like, you're connecting with the people around you, and, you know, put your bloody phone down and just have a conversation with someone, a deep one, you know what I mean? What about yourself? What kind of advice would you have?
Well, the thing that really stood out to me and what you were saying just before, and I think was a key thing throughout everything you said, is not being afraid of failure. Because what you said, you've tried so many different things, you know, like you said, 3 projects maybe are still around after 20. So why didn't, you know, you could have had the mindset, oh, okay, well, 17 of them haven't worked, so I guess I'm a failure. But obviously you've weeded them out, and there's a reason why they haven't continued. Maybe they weren't meaningful. Maybe there's other extraneous factors, whatever it may be. But yeah, I guess just being okay with failing. Like, everyone fails, right?
There is no failure. There is only success or learning.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Well, that's what I was going to go on to. Like, again, with meaning, which we're kind of trying to talk about, make meaning out of the failure. So if you failed, like you said,
it is actually a success.
It is actually a success. You've learned from it.
Yeah.
Why did you fail? Because maybe this happened, or maybe this happened, or whatever. And yeah,
I guess. Go, oh, cool. That's not the thing for me.
Yeah, that's
no worries. Let's move on to the next thing.
Doesn't mean I'm terrible.
Huge.
Yeah, I can move on from that.
But to play devil's advocate, it's super easy to we're talking about this as if it's simple. It's definitely not something that's simple because all of the pressures are like around everyone, kind of stop you from trying and keep you in your comfort zone. Because if you fail, then everyone's going to be so quick to be like, "Hey, you tried that thing and it didn't work out, and you failed. Well, guess what? This crab in the bucket mentality,
pulling them down.
Pulling them down.
Yeah.
So because no one wants to really see you succeed. So it's like, but this is the thing. This is where it comes back to, what did you say before? Not being afraid of failing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and you have to have that attitude and implement that into yourself in that I get to learn and I get to or succeed, and it's like the people around you it's going to be so quick to, and that's a good way to weed out the people that really shouldn't be in your life.
Definitely.
Because if you fail at something and your friend calls you out on it, then they're not really someone you kind of want. But
exactly right.
There is that mentality, and even good friends can, do that. I know that whenever I fail, you make me feel extremely bad, Dan. So no,
you've got to, mate. You've got to ground people.
That's how you make me grow.
I make you grow. But yeah, no, I do agree with that, and I think I don't want to oversell, I guess, my optimism, because obviously we're talking about this from experience, like looking in hindsight. For example, some of the stories we talk about, we probably didn't have that outlook when it happened at the time, and now I've got a different outlook. So now I'm gonna, again, perception is reality. So I'm gonna create some sort of meaning out of that for whatever reason, to make it sound like, oh yeah, this happened for this reason. But yeah, I think everyone experiences times where they hit roadblocks. Like, I still regularly hit moments where I'm kind of thinking about, my YouTube channel or my life or my career or whatever it may be, and it's still a regular thing. Like, I do regularly go to those moments where I'll think about something I didn't do right, or how someone else is doing better than me, and I try to pull myself back. So yeah, I just want it to be quite, I guess, known to people out there that it's not just, like you said, as simple as just going,
no, it's definitely not simple.
Oh, I failed, so I'll just move on. Like, sit with those emotions of feeling, if you're embarrassed, sit with those emotions, try to understand why you're embarrassed. Who has someone said something to you, like you said, weed those people out if they've made you feel embarrassed for whatever reason, or whatever it may be. I guess it's just that relentless self-development, trying to find what it is that maybe you excel at, or something that you enjoy. Yeah,
gets you excited.
That's it. And I guess it's great also to talk about passions and oh, well, you just got to find the one thing you love. But of course, some people who are deeply depressed, or some people who are extremely experiencing like crippling, anxiety or severe anxiety, it's hard just to go, oh, we'll find a passion and just do it. Maybe for some people, again, because we spoke about a bit of homework for people, or things that people can think about, just taking those small steps. So maybe not a passion, but maybe just find something in your everyday life that you appreciate, or something that you're thankful for. Maybe, I don't know. Gratitude. That's another big thing.
Huge, bro. Huge. And just like something I always say when, people laugh at me when I say it, but honestly, like when I wake up and I have all of my arms and legs attached, and all of my internal organs are working, and I can breathe and I can talk and I can see, like, what? I've got it all. Like, I'm rich, I'm literally rich, because everything's fine. Like, I'm not dead. I'm not trapped in a cell somewhere. You know what I mean? No. So it's like gratitude, you definitely find meaning in that. It definitely brings you back down to earth and makes you realize, oh my God, like I'm actually experiencing life. You know what I mean? Like all these things, money, it can be really hard. It can be really hard. Everything can be really hard. Finding friends, everything, but at least I'm alive, and all, and then you can build on that from there, so like gratitude is huge. You're so right in that. If you don't actually have basic gratitude, and there's a lot of ways to practice that. I often, like, before I go to bed, I can like sometimes just say like 5 things that I did that day that I'm super grateful for.
I like
Or
that.
even like on my morning meditation, you wake up and you say 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for. I heard a theory recently, and I can't quote the exact person that I heard it from. I think it was a Rich Roll podcast, but one way to actually appreciate life more is essentially you choose 3 people and you choose 3 things about them that you appreciate. So it's like if it's Dan, and then you choose 3 things about them. And so like each day you do that essentially. And it can be people, someone you don't know, like a podcaster or something.
Yeah.
And you appreciate that they put their podcast out and they do it in this way and blah, 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 And then again, that just fills you with gratitude and makes you like much less of an ego, tames your ego so you can actually
That's great.
be much more happy, and
That's really
have
good.
that meaning.
Yeah, and something to do with what you just said kind of just sprung to mind. A lot of people who will be straight to the instinctual, straight on their instinctual guns of being aggressive or being defensive or whatever it may be. One thing that I actually heard recently, and one thing that I guess I have tried to do, is you try to put yourself in their position. So if someone has frustrated you, then I've actually heard that technique to be very helpful. You think about things that you appreciate or value about that person, even though they may have annoyed you that much that you're willing to go and confront them. Think about it, and another really important thing for confrontation, in my opinion, this is kind of going on a tangent, but it's related, is giving yourself time to breathe. And, we've spoken about this again before, but allowing your brain to let the blood flow back into the frontal cortex, allow you to actually be rational, not jumping straight on the fight or flight and being aggressive or being defensive, literally just going, okay, so there must have been a reason why they shouted at me. This person doesn't always shout at me. There must be a reason. Instead of like severing that relationship and going, oh, well, screw you then. Like, I'm going to bring up something that I was resentful about 4 years ago. Now the friendship's over because of it. Like, that's a very severe kind of situation, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. So yeah, just being grateful. That's a really key point, I think.
I suppose the best way to think about that is just as long as you're aware that, immediate reactions are of the ego, then you can separate yourself from that. That's actually not me. It's just something that's coming out of me. So taking a moment to cool off, which is hard to remember in that moment.
Definitely.
But anyway, that is a tangent. Stop distracting us, Dan. It's a whole other podcast, okay? All right, I want to switch gears a bit and go super deep here.
Okay.
We're talking about meaning, right?
Yeah.
So we've mostly been talking kind of like surface level meaning, where it's like probably mostly appealing to the West, where people kind of have a relatively good living situation. They're not poor, and they can do all these day-to-day things. But when it comes down to it, we are a tiny, tiny, tiny ant on a small rock floating in space, of which we know there are millions, if not billions, of other planets. And we know that there was just one huge bang one day, and all of a sudden everything expanded, and here we are. And that, I guess, brings some kind of existential crisis into play, where it's like, I want to find meaning in my life, and I want to, be a filmmaker or something like that, and that's great. But when it comes down to it, the deeper level is that like nothing really matters, and you can use that to your advantage. 100%. Nothing matters. I'm just going to jump into it, do it. Who cares? Whatever. But oftentimes I can find myself, I mostly have that attitude, that positive attitude. Oftentimes I find myself in the other one where I'm like, well, nothing matters. Why should I even care? I'm just some dude that's going to only live for 90 to 100 years if I'm really lucky on a rock in space, and nothing matters, and the whole human planet 100%. Is dying, and nothing matters. Everything's crap. Like what kind of remedies is something to kind of get you out of that, right? I'm again putting you on the spot here, but I love doing this.
You do. You really do. See, I don't think about something to that extent. I regularly think about the fact that there will be beings out there besides us. And aliens. Aliens. But I don't know. Like, to me, that it fascinates me, but it doesn't sit on my mind, because I try to just stay in my lane, just think about myself, but not myself in a selfish way. But I mean, I try to stay within my grounded area with people I know. So I don't know. That's an interesting one.
I guess what I'm saying is,
hard.
when you look at the larger picture, it can be easy to ask, what's the point? What is the point of living? Why am I here? Who put me here? And why do we have consciousness and animals don't? They're not self-aware. We have egos, you know? Anyway, I guess there's no answer.
No, there's not. Well, I guess kind of what we're tying into, like, if we are just beings on this planet that, you know, will be forgotten about in 1,000 years or whatever? Will our names be around? The thing that I guess for me has really stuck with me is just the whole idea of leaving behind a legacy, right? And people can do that through having kids or through creating content or whatever it is that's leaving some part of them on the planet that will then continue after they pass on. So I guess that is something that can drive people, like, or something that maybe is more important to think about instead of like how frightfully large the world is and how we are just a blip, we are just ants that will disappear and next generation will come through and wipe over us. And that's a real thing that happens, you know, every year basically. So I guess, yeah, really tying it into the podcast, like trying to find something that gives you meaning for the years that you have on this planet, really.
That's it. That's what exactly
whatever it is, like instead of just grinding and, oh, well, you know, everyone dies, the world's crap, that kind of mentality. Well, try to enjoy it as much as you can, whatever it is. Find someone that you love, friends you love, whatever. Fitness, find that, you know, anything that will make you feel better. And if it makes you feel better and you're not hurting anyone, then don't let other people make you feel bad for doing that. If your parents or if your friends make you feel bad for doing it, then, you know, if you're not hurting anyone, it's none of their business. Yeah, cut them out. They're toxic to your life.
So in wrapping up, I will say there's a lot of people that say what the point of life is and what the point of existence is. Different gurus all over the world that say particular things.
Yeah.
But I've found in my life, and this is my kind of motto, that the point of life is simply to experience consciousness. So, and everything else on top of that is just a sprinkle on top. And this comes back down to gratitude as well.
Yes.
That when you think of it that way, we're already fulfilling our purpose by just experiencing consciousness. We were born with this consciousness. It's magic. You know, we don't know much about it.
No.
How are we even talking and communicating? It's amazing, really.
It really is, yeah.
So to have that gratitude, but just to realize that you're actually fulfilling your experience and everything on top of that is just the sprinkle on top that it's like, oh, look at this extra wonderful thing that we get to do. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
it's like, that's another thing to kind of think about. Whenever I'm in a hard time, it's like, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It's
Nothing
okay.
matters,
You know, here we are, like, everything's all good, just like, chill out.
And reality is what you make it as such. Like
that as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to be coming up on the next podcast.
Yep.
So
We
anything
should wrap
else
up.
you would like to say in wrapping up, Dan?
I think we've touched on quite a lot.
Yeah, we went deep here. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to listening back to this one and just blowing my own mind, basically. That's the main reason we're doing this. So
that's definitely it. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
yeah, so we've got quite a few more spicy topics coming up.
Definitely.
And a few awesome guests coming up as well. Definitely stay tuned. This is MetaMinds episode 2.
Yep.
We look forward to seeing you on episode 3. My name is Eamon.
My name is Dan.
And we'll catch you next time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.